Welcome back to Don't Mess with the Mamas, here with Johnny Mitchell and Arlaana Black.
Hello.
Today we are talking about something that might surprise you: loneliness. Isn't it strange? We live in a time when there are more ways to communicate than ever before. However, we can text, FaceTime, hop on social media, join endless group chats, and yet studies show more people are feeling lonely, disconnected, and unseen than at any other time in history. Loneliness isn't just a fleeting emotion. It's being recognized as an epidemic, one with serious consequences for our minds, our hearts, and even our physical health. But here's the good news: loneliness is not permanent, and together we can do something about it. So today, we're going to explore why loneliness is rising in a world buzzing with communication skills, how it impacts families and communities, and most importantly, what we can do about it. Because here on Don't Mess with the Mamas, we believe that no one should face life alone. So, Arlaana, what do you think about this situation, and how do you feel about more dialogue?
Johnny, I just loved that introduction. I just wanted to listen to you more and more, and that was really beautiful. And you make such an important point that now when we can communicate so much with all of this media that we have, we're less communicative. And that's because somehow, we are too individualistic and we're no longer really connecting to people's lives. And just to give you some statistics, and it's really heartbreaking because the marginalized groups are being affected the most, and especially our young people, our Generation Z. They have the highest percentage of statistical loneliness, and people who are single, and the blacks and Hispanics and the LGBTQ community. How can we really harmonize everybody and just to have dialogue, really care about each other? So to give you a few different quotes, of course, as you know, Johnny and I are SGI Buddhists, and our international president, who has since passed, Isaku Ikeda, said, Buddhism teaches that each individual is a microcosm of the universe who holds vast riches of unique experiences, feelings, and wisdom. When we actively seek to know more about those around us, we can develop meaningful relationships that strengthen our social fabric. And what does it mean to really have dialogue? Even if you don't know the person, you can still say hello. Hello is a great way of dialoguing or starting the discussion, or just saying thank you. A funny story about a young man who went to an area in Europe, and they were having a lot of discord, and he didn't speak Spanish. It was actually in Spain. All he knew was the word thank you, and he kept on saying gracias to everyone, and that really opened people's hearts. So to give you a brief definition of dialogue, and this is near and dear to my heart because had I continued my doctoral studies, I was going to do my dissertation on dialogue as the most expedient means to solve world conflict. And then chocolate cake, too. I think if you got all the world leaders together and really have open dialogue and give them some really good sweets, good meal and then good sweets, we wouldn't have any issues at all. Well, that's just, of course, naive. But and then to give you a definition, dialogue is the courageous willingness to know and be known by others. It is the painstaking and persistent effort to remove all obstacles that obscure our common humanity. And just to talk a little bit longer about this, when you have dialogue, it's about really opening your heart and becoming vulnerable to really listen to what the other person has to say. And there, I named something called the difficult dialogues, which I had to have with my husband's father when he said he would support us in our restaurant, and at the last minute said, "I can't support you." And we were already committed to going to a different place, to moving to a different place. And boy, I had to really, really reach his heart. And that was the most difficult thing, because politically we're totally different, financially very, very different in every which way. But you can always touch a person's heart. And I chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for hours and hours, knowing, what should I say? And it wasn't coming from my mind, it was coming from my heart. And whatever I said, something really broke in him. This is a man in his late 80s, and he realized something about his own life at that very moment, that he was devoted to stuff instead of family, to really care about his family. And that really changed for the rest of his life, actually, and we just became so much closer. So I think that to really dialogue is to really, with an open heart, even if the person is so different from you, and most people are very different from each other, to really be able to listen and get beyond the superficial stuff, because we're all human, and I know you're a great exponent of that. We're all human beings. And I'm sorry, just to drop more. I did an experiment with my students in psychology. I gave them a sentence, and they weren't able to speak at all. They had to use their facial expressions and emotions. And it's amazing how they were able to communicate. And then I think about animals. They look right into you, right with their eyes, right into your eyes, and they're able to communicate. And then we can communicate with nature too. There are so many different ways to really communicate. But that's what I wanted to say for now. Johnnie, you really have so much wisdom in so many ways. And my question to you is, what is loneliness? What does it mean to be lonely?
Thank you, Elena, for sharing your knowledge about and experiences with dialogue. And I think you have come to the crux of the issue. While today we have more means of communication than ever before in history, we are not utilizing it. I'm thinking, while you were talking, I was just thinking about a family. Most times at restaurants now, there's the mother, the father, and let's say 3 kids. And everybody has a phone in front of them, so there's no real communication going on. They're not talking to each other from heart to heart or even superficially. They're just in the same space.
Absolutely.
But they are on whatever. The little ones are probably looking at a video or something. I guess the parents are communicating by text to, I don't know, or responding. So I think we've come to the issue. We have more than ever the means of communicating, but communication, the heart of communication, as you have so well described to us, is dialogue, and that is what is not taking place. And so, voila, there it is. We have an epidemic of loneliness. And to be lonely, it means you're, I guess, as the title says, one. You're one. You're on an island of yourself, and that's where you're unseen, not having the feeling of belonging. Are you important to someone? So those are some things that, as we are discussing this, it's getting to be like, wow, what can we do to help this process? Many times I would love to go up to that family and say, could you speak to each other and
Absolutely.
share some communication between, so that the child feels a part of this unit of the family. So the families are disintegrating because there's no coming together of dialogue. Everybody is in their own world.
Yes, right, exactly. Your own world, for sure.
And that is what loneliness is. And so the issue then is, how do we get people to come back together and dialogue, and as you have said, from the heart, where it's not just superficial, when was your last text, but something real that you're feeling at the time. And so I definitely see why we have this epidemic of loneliness. And I would like to know, do you have any personal experiences or encouragement that you have received that might help us with this
Yes.
issue?
I believe so. And thinking, and thank you so much, Johnny, for explaining that, because I think people are coming to the realization that something needs to change. We can't continue along this path because the desire, is to keep us separated by our leaders, and that's not healthy at all. It's just a deep arrogance and lack of care for the human being. So when you look at historically our society, we were raised, America, this country, was raised to be individuals, where the rugged individualism, versus many other societies where collectivism is really the key. And if you look at countries in Latin America or in Africa or in Asia, there's a real importance of the family. And here we just don't have that. Children are divorcing their parents. Parents are divorcing their children. We have a real drug epidemic, all of that. And I think because people are, as you said, so into themselves, they're into their own little world. Being in your own little world doesn't do anything. We have to come out of our own little worlds in order to really show care for our fellow human beings. And I was thinking, especially the elderly, if you're living alone or you're sickly and you can't really come out much, but you live in a neighborhood somehow. So to be able to really meet your neighbors, to determine to have some kind of relationship with your neighbors. It's not by accident that you're living among certain individuals. We say, because we believe in karma, we believe everything is connected, interconnected. So to be able to somehow reach out to even a neighbor, or if you're shopping, to say, get to know your cashiers. I love our cashiers where we shop, and we have a really good relationship, and it just feels so good to see them and to say hello. And my own experience when I was living in Manhattan, I was dying of loneliness. Now, how could you die of loneliness where there's such a large and diverse population? But I was reaching out and begging to have somebody in my life, even though I had many friends, and I felt this kind of emptiness in my life. And that's when I got the encouragement to open up the lens of my life, to look beyond my own self. And when I did that, when I detached from just me, and how I feel, and woe is me, and all this stuff, and started looking to care about others and knowing that other people are struggling just as much, that's when everything changed, and I was able to open up my life enough to welcome somebody really wonderful into my life. But I had to go through that process, so that's sort of what I wanted to say. And then what about you? I know you have many personal experiences, and you're such a go-getter. You really impress me. You're an individual woman. You're not afraid to do anything in life, and I'm really encouraged. You may not know that, but you don't realize how you impact other people, and you definitely impact me as somebody very courageous. So what's your experience?
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Well, my experience with or dealing with this situation that we're going through right now, you'll probably be surprised, and it's with babies
Oh.
and children. As I go along my way, as you say, I'm pretty active and I'm always
You are.
out doing something. So I'm always looking for the babies in the carriages or walking along and the eye to eye contact. And what
Wow.
I am telling them with my eyes is, I see you. You're wonderful. I smile. I wave if the parents let me. Because what I'm noticing, Elena, and this is so new for our generation, to be a stay-at-home mom is such a wonderful thing. We think of a child as so privileged and lucky to have that. But today, that child is in the carriage and the mother is on the phone texting.
Yes.
And so it's like, what what are we doing with the next generation of teaching them how to deal with dialogue and connectedness to the human people? Those are the loneliest people in the carriages, and you might think this is funny, but it's like I try to communicate with them, and usually it's just by the eyes. We just look at each other and send love and
That's
smile,
amazing.
because that something is wrong with that. And those of you who are listening, do you have any feelings about that? If you're a stay-at-home mom and you have that privilege and to do that, it's about sharing and teaching your child how to not be lonely and to be a participating person in the society of where we are sharing and communicating and dialoguing. And what I'm seeing is just the opposite. And to me, it's very sad. So, my thing, I guess my experience is that I try to communicate as well as I can with people to let them know that they are seen, that I care about them. I go to the gym every day and I try to communicate, and it's so people are responding so well to that somebody sees them and acknowledge just a smile, or I like the way you do your exercises, or how you come every day, and it's a pleasure having you a part, because that's my community.
Yes,
And that's the other
absolutely.
thing. Wherever you are, that is your community.
Yes.
And that is our responsibility to bring the community together and to do something about this loneliness. Well, do you have anything you would like to add, Elena, before I end the session with some key points and encouragement?
I think you really have said so many wonderful things, and the connection that you try to make with babies. I just love that. How wonderful that is. And I just one quick thing as a teacher, I realized, and especially when I taught history and African American studies and government and economics, but my favorite was teaching psychology, because it gave me the opportunity to ask students the most difficult questions and to really listen to them. And when I found among young people, and you start with babies, which I'd never even thought of, how beautiful that is. I'm sure that's somehow imprinted on their memory, that's young people really need to be listened to. Nobody's really asking them questions. Now, sometimes they may say, I don't want to talk about it, which is okay, but to just really listen to them, open up your heart, and really, even if you have completely different beliefs from them, which of course you would as an older individual, but to open up your heart and really listen. And I think, Johnnie, you've expressed that so well. So take it back to you for your key points, and then we'll close with your wonderful, encouraging words, and we'll remind people about our motto and where to find us.
Thank you. So, our key points for today: loneliness is widespread and affects people of every age, status, and background. Technology can connect us, but it doesn't always create true community. Loneliness impacts health in powerful ways, on par with smoking or obesity. Small gestures, calls, meals, visits can change someone's entire day. And most importantly, building intentional community is our responsibility. A phone call, a shared meal, or simply checking in on someone can make a world of difference. And for words of encouragement, the heart of one person moves another's. If one's own heart is closed, then the doors of other people's hearts will also shut tight. On the other hand, someone who makes all those around him or her into allies, bathing them in the sunlight of spring, will be treasured by all. And that's it for today. Always remember, you are the protagonist, not the victim of your own life. And until the next time, you can find us at Don't Mess with the Mamas at Libsyn, Libsyn, or Facebook, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we would love to hear from you.
Email address, you could find us at mommas, MOMMAS .podcast@gmail.com. And don't forget, mamas is spelled MOMMAS. Okay. Bye for now.